Good afternoon, everybody. My name is still Daudu Joshua Rotimi. I'm a lecturer with the Federal University Lokoja in Kogi State. In my previous video, I took you around the nitty-gritties of writing a lesson plan. The lesson plan, just like we have in the civil engineering, the building plan. In the educational sector, we have the lesson plan. It is a step-by-step guide on how to deliver the content of a lesson. In my last video, I talked about the behavioral objectives. The behavioral objectives are the expected learning outcome that a teacher projects before entering the class. It's a projected learning outcome. You are expected to know some of these things at the end of the lesson. So, to me, the behavioral objective is a projection, a projected learning outcome, a learning outcome that is expected at the end of every lesson. I told you that in stating the behavioral objectives, we have what we call the measurable verbs. These verbs are concrete verbs that a teacher projects and which can be measured. And some of these verbs include define, list, differentiate, draw, describe. Once a student is able to express and display these measurable verbs, then we say the student knows. So knowing is a culmination, is a summary of a student displaying these measurable verbs. This afternoon, I want to talk about the other component of the lesson plan format, which is the instructional material. In some people have argued that instructional materials are also called teaching aids, but they are different. When we talk about instructional materials, these are materials that carry out dual function. It carries out the function of teaching and at the same time carries out the function of learning. If, for instance, I bring in a model into the classroom and the model is well labeled, and a student comes across this model and is able, even without the assistance or the aid of a teacher, the student is able to follow the model and follow the instructions of the model and can now use that model. That model that has information that guides the student to be able to use them even without the assistance of a teacher is what we call an instructional material. That means the model has some labelings on them, and on that labeling the student can identify some of the features of that model without the aid of a teacher. Then we said such is an instructional material. But when we're talking about teaching aids are materials that only assist a teacher to be able to carry out his teaching function. Now, once a teacher wants to treat a concept and he needs a familiar object to be able to pass across his message, that familiar object that cannot teach the concept without the aid of the teacher is the teaching aid. So the instructional material can work without the assistance of a teacher, but the teaching aid needs the teacher to be able to use. It is when the teacher uses them that we can now say yes, effective learning has taken place. So it depends on the aid the teacher wants to use. It could either use an instructional aid or use a teaching aid. They are two different things. Now, I've always told students in all my encounter that how many of you have seen your brain before? And some of them say none of them has ever seen his or her brain. And I keep asking them, how do you know you have a brain? Some of them say I've seen it in movies, I've seen it in charts, I've seen it in textbooks. Now, The fact that you see these abstract objects in textbooks shows you that if this feature that looks like you, it could be a personality, it could be a picture of human being in that chart, or a video showing the internal structure of the brain, of the skull. Now this video will now tell you, or an X-ray video that shows you that this, and if those things have those features, it means you have them. Now instructional materials or teaching aids are materials that brings abstract objects to reality. These abstract objects could be materials we are familiar with in our society. When this structure called the teaching aid or the instructional material is able to bring them to concrete natures, this bring them to reality, then we say this is an instructional material or a teaching aid. So the essence of this teaching aid in the teaching profession is to be able to bring abstract objects, things that the students are familiar with in the society but might not know the name or might not know their presence, bringing them to reality. These materials that brings them from the abstract nature to reality are what we call the instructional materials. Then after the instructional material, in our next video, I will be telling you the next steps in your writing of the lesson plan formats. Thank you and God bless you. Please like, share this video to your colleagues. God bless you.